When I was 21 years old in 2012, I met God and then was soon hospitalized. Here's my short describing the experience. Exactly 10 years ago today, Sunday, March 25th, 2012, I woke up at 7 a.m. and walked to the room next door. Then I was shot by an invisible arrow to the brain, and the pain was so intense I fell to my knees as it started to vibrate and spread throughout my entire head. With that came an experience that is impossible to describe with words, but something like catharsis. Like I'd been holding on to huge tension my whole life and it was suddenly released. I noticed an invisible presence that was watching me and has been watching me my entire life. I started bawling my eyes out and I thought I should grab my camera. Here's what I shot.
You really do exist.
With that, I also started to believe that I'm the fifth prophet, and I was soon hospitalized and diagnosed with bipolar type 1. Not a happy chapter in my life. So after experiencing that beautiful, silent, loving presence, I was struck by a psychotic delusion that I was the fifth prophet. I came out of the psych ward a few weeks later, keeping that delusion a secret from the doctors in order to be discharged. But my delusion began to break down as ordinary life resumed. Being the fifth prophet seemed too unrealistic. There was no way it was true. But a thread of it remained, subconsciously holding me together. My manic mind had placed me at the center of a divine plan, and my post-manic hope was that I was still part of some plan, even if I wasn't at the center. But then, a year later, in 2013, I fell into a deep depression. I remember the exact trigger that started my depression. I was in New York City, staying with my uncle during a 4-month internship. We were driving back from a Korean grocery store, and on the topic of religion, he was innocently exploring an idea. He said, if you view the world as an atheist, then the world is even more incredible and mind-boggling because there was no creator and all of this came of its own accord. At that moment, it felt like I was hanging from a cliff holding onto a rope and the rope snapped and I was falling to my doom, but it was an endless, bottomless pit. I kept falling deeper and deeper and there was no end to the depths of despair. I started to see a future where I was miserable, lonely old man, and it felt inevitable. The rope wasn't just a belief in God. That rope was connecting me to the idea that my life and the universe itself had a built-in narrative. During my mania, my belief was, I am the most important person in the universe with a divine plan. After my hospitalization, my hope was, I am a person in a universe with a divine plan. That wasn't a conscious belief, it was subconsciously keeping me cheerful as I went about life. After my uncle's conversation, that belief turned into, I am a random collection of atoms in a universe with no plan, no meaning, and no purpose. This is why I felt my inside just drop the moment he said that. The certainty of becoming a miserable, lonely old man was the logical conclusion of that new belief. If there's no plan, no meaning, and no purpose in life, then I'm just a cosmic accident who is doomed to a life of misery. I've already talked in my previous video essay about the practical tip I got from my university friend to focus on today, one day at a time, instead of being certain about a future that nobody truly knows. In that video, I also talk about how I started saying mantras that I got from books, such as everything is turning out as it should. I started saying these mantras a decade after my New York depression, a decade filled with more hospitalizations and years of depression following afterwards. It was a brutal decade-long cycle. Mania would fill my world with a profound, delusional sense of purpose. I was the star of a cosmic story. And then medication would snap me out of it, and I would spiral into depression when I returned to reality, a world of chaos and suffering with no meaning. It was hell compared to the meaningful story I had been living during mania. There was no point in living in such a world, and I wanted out. So how did I get from there to, in my last impromptu video, saying, I must be one of the happiest people in the world. I'm convinced I am. In that video, I gave the reason to my happiness as finding meaning and connection through my YouTube videos and audiences, but that isn't the whole picture. In fact, my reason was trite. There are people who have similar blessings as me, strong relationships, financial support, a project or job they find meaning in, yet despite having all that, none of those guarantees happiness. It's not hard to find examples of people who seemingly have everything the world could offer, yet were so miserable that they ended their own lives. Off the top of my head, Anthony Bourdain is the most recent example for me, where he would travel all around the world and eat delicious food with lovely friends and get handsomely paid to do so, and was found to have ended his own life in his hotel room. So no, none of those external reasons are the true reason why I am convinced that I am one of the happiest people in the world. Those reasons help, for sure, but they are not enough on their own. For a true sense of peace, contentment, and happiness, what matters most is your worldview, your operating system. That's what turned my life around. I encountered a man named Sasha who told me that everything in his life, including his abusive mother who brutally beat him up as a child regularly, he said that he chose all of that to happen. Not in a human way. He said he chose everything in his life to be the way it is from a godlike perspective. Although he said he didn't realize that until decades later. Eckhart Tolle said, accept the present moment as if you had chosen it.
Accept it as if you had chosen it.
I could see some comments by other people chiming in saying, yes, accept it as if you had chosen it because you did choose it. The same thing that Sasha said. I was so confused when I heard that. I mean, how could I have chosen my life the way it is, suffering and all? Alan Watts answers this question. There's a recording of him talking about it called Suppose You Were God. You can look it up on YouTube. Suppose you were God and you can dream up any dream you want for yourself. First, you would dream dreams of pure pleasure for what seemed like eternity, and then inevitably you'd get bored. You start to crave challenge, adventure, risks, and even suffering just for the thrill of overcoming them. And then you would choose to forget that you were ever dreaming in the first place, to raise the stakes, and for the catharsis when you wake up to reality and realize that it was all just a dream. Eventually, you would dream a dream of the exact life that you are living right now.
It may just be the very dream you decided to get into. If you like it, crazy. If you don't like it, what fun it'll be when you wake up.
This mind experiment is from the central core of a Hindu school of thought, Advaita Vedanta, and although I found that out years later, for years this remained just that, a mind experiment. But I kept getting hints from different people that there was more to this world than its material existence. People would give glimpses into the nature of reality. Along with Alan Watts, Eckhart Tolle, and Bishop John Shelby Spong kept talking about a common thread that I was beginning to see. A oneness of everything. A single, unified consciousness that is experiencing itself, and that is the fundamental nature of reality. I didn't quite understand what they meant. Then I heard from scientists who were talking about a similar reality from a scientific point of view. I listened to the Calgary lectures by NASA physicist Tom Campbell, who explains the results of bizarre quantum experiments and states that consciousness is the fundamental nature of reality, akin to a virtual reality. He says that he is not a pioneer in believing so, and lists quotes from famous scientists who knew 100 years ago that there is no objective reality. Tom also appeared on Joe Rogan pretty recently and gained many new fans. And then I read the book by cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman after hearing his viral TED Talk about how there is no objective reality. He also proposes that consciousness is the fundamental building block of reality, not matter. Matter exists within consciousness and does not exist independently without it. So I spent hours watching their lectures, reading their books. I was skeptical, but open-minded, and I kept digging. By the way, Donald Hoffman's TED Talk was much more impactful for me than his book. I ended up giving that book away. So after listening to Tom and Donald, I saw the science, I heard proposals for the true nature of reality. I was still a little bit confused of what to make of what everyone was saying. That is, until I found Leo. I picked up a book written by a YouTuber, Dan Koe. I didn't like his book, to be honest. I was very disappointed in this book. His videos are better. But at the very end of the book, under resources and inspiration, the first thing he lists is Leo Gura and his actualize.org YouTube channel. Dan Koe said it reshaped his worldview. So I went on YouTube and started diving in. That's where I got the answers about the nature of reality I was looking for my whole life. As I listened and re-listened to some of the 2-3 hour long videos by Leo Gura, the Alan Watts suppose you were God mind experiment was no longer hypothetical. Through watching Leo Gura's videos, it confirmed to me what I felt deep inside, that the universe and my life isn't a random, meaningless accident, but a drama that is being played out. The Hindus call it Leela, or divine play, a dream that is being dreamt for an audience of one. I even see musicians singing about the core of this belief.
Can't say that you are God itself. You are God itself.
I am not here to preach that I know the true nature of reality. You can listen to Donald Hoffman's TED Talk, Tom Campbell's lectures, Leo Gura's videos, or even read from the teachings of truly enlightened mystics like Ramana Maharshi, and you can come to your conclusion that these people are batshit crazy. You can believe that you are a cosmic accident in a small part of the universe with an objective reality based on matter, and that matter gave rise to consciousness, which is famously known to scientists as the hard problem of consciousness, because materialist scientists cannot answer this question. Or you can believe in simulation theory, that this world is just a simulation, which is gaining a lot of popularity these days. For me, belief isn't something that can be taught. It was a combination of my unreal psychotic episodes and a decade of exploring these topics that clicked my worldview into place. My current worldview is the most helpful model and tool for viewing my life, and it has forever changed me. I am no longer the victim of an uncaring and objective universe. The deepest part of who I am, the one and only consciousness, is the creator of this dream I'm living in. My tumultuous 20s, filled with manic chaos and suicidal depression, was an arc that I had to go through to get to where I am today. It's all part of the divine narrative. It doesn't mean that I will have an easy life for the rest of my life. More chaos and tragedy will come until I die, I'm sure, but it is all part of a play that is being created in real time. Imagine a movie where it follows a protagonist having the most wonderful life from birth till death, with no tragedy, no struggle, and no drama. That would be the most boring film, and I realized that's not what I signed up for in this lifetime. So whenever tragedy or hardship strikes, the mantra that I have, everything is turning out as it should, has turned from something that I was skeptical about but still repeating to myself into something that I now wholeheartedly believe. So that's why I firmly believe that I am one of the happiest people in the world. I have a worldview and framework that gives me the gratitude, resilience, and knowledge that everything will be okay. Even in the worst case scenario in this life, I will be completely fine when I wake up from this dream. So I'm going to keep striving and keep playing in this lifetime with unshakable faith, no matter what life throws at me. 1% better every day, baby.